You're listening to Gavin Reshaw Presents here on channel G2786, the best live stream media talk on the internet, on YouTube. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you are blessed and doing safe. We are waiting for our guest of honor, Mr. Carl Galmon, to come and join with us. He's going to be talking about a little bit of Black history, but also on some stuff with regards to gerrymandering that's going on in the state of Louisiana. And we're going to be chopping up with him and talk to him. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you are blessed and doing safe on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. We're going to kick it right now. In a few minutes, we're going to just keep the music playing until we wait for our guest of honor. But this is channel G2786. I'm Gavin Reshaw with Gavin Reshaw Presents. So y'all do not touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Archibald needed right.
Y'all are tuning in to the baddest live stream on YouTube. We are still awaiting our guest, Mr. Carl Galmon. He is going to be in real shortly. Just a little information on Mr. Galmon. I'm going to ask him about this too. You guys, Mr. Galmon has served as a deputy director of divisionary programs for the New Orleans, Louisiana office parish, Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office, and a director. I got to turn the music off, even though it's great. He's the former director of African American Affairs for the City of New Orleans Mayor's Office, a teacher. He's taught civics and physical education at junior high school students in New Orleans public school system. And he's also a former professional baseball pitcher for the Boston Red Sox Class A farm organization. He's been affiliated with several civil rights organizations, from the National Voting Rights Museum and Institute of Selma, Alabama, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the Coalition for People's Agenda for the state of Georgia, and he's a charter member of Selma to Montgomery Historic Voting Rights Trail. His accomplishments includes spearheading efforts to integrate the executive committee of the New Orleans Sugar Bowl game after 40 years of segregation. He was also instrumental in getting 45 black colleges admitted to the NCAA Division I AA program after 68 years of no black colleges being members of the association. He led the fight to get 3 permanent voter registration branches in the African American community, obtained funding from Voter Education Project Incorporated and the A. Philip Randolph Institute, and registered over 22,000 new African American voters, making it possible to elect its first black mayor, which was none other than Dutch Morial. He led the fight to rename public schools here in New Orleans named after former slave owners and slave traders. Of the 121 schools, 49 were named for slaveholders. 26 schools in the district, where more than 91% of the students were black, have been renamed. In 1996, he filed racial discrimination charges with the Office of Civil Rights, United States Department of Education, to end discrimination and magnet schools in New Orleans area. He's married to Miss Gloria Benoit Galmon, and Mr. Galmon has 2 children, Kevin and Keisha, and 2 grandchildren, Kevin Jr. and Carissa. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, our guest has arrived. Please welcome, let me turn on my camera as well. Please welcome Mr. Carl Galmon to the show. Mr. Galmon, hello? I can see him. Hold on, let me turn. Mr. Galmon, I can see y'all. Testing 1, 2. Everybody can hear me? Okay, so they're in the building, guys. I can hear you.
Mhm.
I see you connecting. This is also unstable.
The connection's unstable.
Live with stream.
You can see me, Mr. Galmon? Okay. We're having a little technical difficulty. I'm trying to get him in. I know people on Facebook and YouTube. You guys can hit me all on channel GBoo2786 that's watching. Let me know if you can hear me or if my connection is unstable, if you're having issues, if I'm lagging. It looks like I'm fine. But apparently Mr. Galmon's having some issues and he got kicked out. So what I'll probably do, I'm gonna try and just we'll try and do it over the phone because that might be a little bit better in case. Let me just give him a call. Y'all give me a second.
That'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll do it over the phone. Guys, Mr. Galvin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay. Just I got my followers on here on YouTube. I'm just waiting for people to say hello, but some people are tuning in. I've already done your introduction, Mr. Galman. Thank you. I've been trying to get you on the show since last year. Actually, at the end, and at that time you had made your 80th birthday. So happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you, Gavin. I appreciate it. I needed that.
No problem. Always. Mr. Galvin, to gerrymandering and some of the work you've done. And but I think it's even fitting that you come on here because this is February 28th and this is the last day of Black History Month. And I wanted to talk about, you've been a historical figure in the fight for civil rights for Black people. But I wanted to have you come on also just to talk about you because a lot of people may not know, especially out there, know who you are. Mr. Galvin, I want to mention this, and I was telling this to the people earlier, but you were a baseball pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I played 4 years at Grambling State University, and after my education, I signed with the Boston Red Sox. I played with a farm organization, Waterloo, Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
And I used my 3 deferments while I was in college, and I got drafted. And I had a choice between the Army and I went into the U.S. Air Force. And so during that time in 1964 and 65, they were accepting blacks into the National Guard here in Louisiana. See, and across the state now, and also Louisiana, white boys can join the National Guard if they play sports.
Right.
During the off-season, they participated in the National Guard. But that window was not open for black athletes. If you use your 3 deferments in college, you had to go full time in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so I took the test for the United States Air Force, and I made a pretty good score, and so they accepted me in the United States Air Force. That's what ended my baseball career. And the number of athletes that played ball in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, at that time, it was the NEIA, National Athletic Intercollegiate Association. All of the predominant black schools was a member of the NEIA. In 1974, I was with the Southern. 1974, I was with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and Dr. Ralph Abernathy was the president of SCLC. Yeah. That organization was founded by Dr. Martin Luther King.
Right.
And the first conference that closed down, the predominant black conference, was the Gulf Coast Conference. Xavier and Dillard University, Bishop and Wiley, and Houston Tillotson, they made up of the Gulf Coast Conference. And that whole conference closed down because they could not compete for the better black athletes because they had integrated the schools, and you find schools like that conference, like the SEC, the Big Ten, and many of the white conferences was competing for the top black athletes. So the Gulf Conference closed down. And Dr. Abernathy said sooner or later, they're going to close down the SWAC Conference and the MEAC Conference. That's what Florida A&M was a member of the MEAC Conference. And there's 2 other conferences that existed that was predominantly black. And so he told me, since you went to Galmon and you pretty close to Eddie Robinson, I would like you to initiate trying to get the SWAC Conference admitted to the NC2A.
Mm-hmm.
And we initiated that, and also we received support from Father Hirschberg. A lot of people don't know Father Hirschberg, who was the president of Notre Dame, was a good friend of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Right.
And Father Hirschberg supported Dr. King on many of those civil rights issues. But the media have kept it from the people that Father Hirschberg was a supporter of the civil rights movement. And so that was in 1964. No, I'm sorry. No, that was 1974. Notre Dame was playing University of Alabama in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
And Father Hirschberg was the president of Notre Dame. So in 1974, we requested Father Hirschberg of Notre Dame to support us in this effort. And the ABC, and that was the university, that was a television station and network that had a monopoly.
Right.
On college sports.
They still do.
And so they still do. You're right about that. And so Father Hirschberg and civil rights organizations like SCLC and NAACP, a number of organizations was the one I worked with, and I initiated the effort compiling information. Mm-hmm. A lot of the information about the NC2A came from Coach Eddie Robinson. I had no idea where the head office was located, the headquarters of the NC2A. It was in Shawnee Mission, Kansas. So we filed a formal complaint through the EEOC. That's a federal agency that dealt with discrimination. So we submitted our information to EEOC. And the president of the NC2A, they wanted to initiate a settlement. And so the first conference that was accepted to the NC2A was the SWAT conference. That's how they got admitted in 1974. And the Picayune, Bob Rossler, he was the news sports editor. He refused to write anything about that. He said by writing an article about Galmon initiating and getting the SWAT conference admitted to the NC2A was giving too much credit.
Right.
Neither the Times Picayune or the three television stations right here in New Orleans did any kind of news story regarding that. Still today, they have never mentioned it about how the SWAT conference got admitted to the NC2A.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So, wow. Yeah, and you did that in 1974, and that was, of course, 10 years after the Civil Rights Act of 1964,
That's right.
Then Voting Rights Act of 1965. But I wanted to ask you, especially about the baseball career, because you got drafted. I was just telling everybody earlier, I was wondering if you had the chance to beat Hank Aaron, and I was thinking that because Hank Aaron had just recently passed away, if you had a story, and you told me.
Well Hank Aaron, he played in the old Negro League.
Right.
That was when things were segregated, okay? First time I saw Hank Aaron was at Pelican Stadium. That was on the corner of Tulane Avenue and Calvin Avenue. That was the stadium there. And I saw Hank Aaron play Willie Mays, Brooke Lawrence, Harry Suitcase Simpson, and many of the guys. Junior Gillum, who played for the Dodgers, and a number of Major League Baseball players. Don Newcomb. They had that all-star team that they played in. And I saw Hank Aaron play right at Old Pelican Stadium. During the summer, I had a chance to play against his brother. His brother was named Tommy Aaron. They were from Mobile, Alabama. And Mobile, Alabama produced some of the best baseball players in the Major League. You remember Quick Swinging Billy Williams, who played for the Chicago Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
William McCovey, who played first base for the San Francisco Giants. Many ball players came out of Mobile, Alabama. Ball players. Willie Mays, I think he was from Birmingham, Alabama. He played center field. So you take a look at Alabama, they produced some great baseball players. And the Major Leagues took advantage of that, and that led to the demise of the Negro League because they was getting every black ball player with major league potential. They was putting them, they was not only they wasn't drafting them, then they were signing them to play in the major league.
Yeah.
They drew the crowd. Lou Brock
Right.
played center field for State University and right field. Okay, he played right field at State University.
Right.
And Lou Brock signed
Jaguars.
Major League Baseball. First he signed with the Cubs.
Right.
And Lou Brock ended up leading the Major League in stolen bases several years. He played right field for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Right.
But basically, you can see a number of baseball people, not funny. Tommy E.G., who I played with at Grambling, Tommy E.G. played with the Mets when he won the World Series. Ralph Goff, he played outfield for Grambling. He ended up playing with the Milwaukee Braves. So you can see a number of black ball players came out this white conference. Vince Coleman, I think, played for Florida A&M. He led the Major League in stolen bases. So you had a number of baseball players, but what really turned black folks off, they stopped drafting, stopped signing these black ball players from historically black colleges and began to go to South America and Central America to sign black ball players. But many of the ball players that played in the Major League that came out this white conference and BAC conference, they couldn't carry any glove. And so you take a look at Major League Baseball today, you don't have those superstars playing today.
Right.
There's a major drop in attendance because you don't have guys like Kurt Flood, Willie Mays, guys who played outfield, and Tommy E.G. They can go and take it off the wall. But you don't find those kind of ball players. You don't find ball players today feeling 100 bases.
Yeah.
And it was exciting to go to the ball game and watch guys like Lou Brock and Murray Wells and Ralph Goff, who played right field for Grambling. You don't know what they're going to take off at first base. That was the most exciting part of a baseball game, is watching somebody steal second or third base.
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson, he stole home several times.
Yep. And it's interesting we're talking about baseball and mentioning that too, Mr. Galmon, and that is that and Lou Brock also, he passed away last year, but also Charlie Pride was also in the Negro Leagues at one point before.
Right, Charlie Pride played in the Negro League.
Right.
You know, he changed his career from playing baseball to music.
Yeah, the country music star.
You know the history, young man.
Well, I've keep up on it. I read all the time on Wikipedia, stuff like this. So, but it comes to mind because recently the MLB just finally accepted the Negro Leagues into their stats into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. All the stats that they have.
Kansas. A lot of blacks don't know that, but the Hall of Fame for the old Negro League, now which is part of the Major League, is in Kansas. And very seldom you hear people talk about going to Kansas into the Hall of Fame for the great ball players that played not only in the Negro League but in the Major League.
Yeah.
And they had a guy who played baseball. He was a steal bases in old Negro called Cool Papa Bell.
Yes.
And there was a thing about the fact that he can cut the lights off and see before the lights go out. That's how quick he was. About him, Cool Papa Bell. And there's another ball player who played in Grambling, the late Frank Garnett. Frank Garnett's time with the Washington Senators. And he played for a while. And he's one of the better hitters in this white conference. You had a number of ball players that played, and they were great ball players.
Right.
But you find during that time, the white newspapers, daily papers, somehow they had a problem with covering black ball players.
Right.
Like when I signed with the Boston Red Sox, now the television station, a white newspaper carried that information. For example, Rosa Taylor, one of the late Rosa Taylor, who played with the Chicago Bears. he signed out of Grammy. He signed with the Chicago Bears when George Harris was the coach.
Yeah.
And Moses made all pro. But when Moses signed, they didn't do no article on Moses Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
There's another guy who played for Grambling called Frank Cornish. Okay? Richard Tombstone Jackson, who played with the Denver Broncos. Okay? And he was a great ball player. But somehow the scientific union and the three television stations, they wasn't about to give that kind of coverage to a black athlete.
No.
During the 60s and 70s.
Right. And especially in the 60s and 70s, they didn't give that coverage. And even with Hank Aaron, when he broke Babe Ruth's record, he's actually he is actually a star that has received the most hate mail than any other celebrity. To my knowledge, he actually had to have his own secretary go through. There was actually a secretary for the Atlanta Braves that actually had to go in and read all of his mail and answer or open all of the hate mail that he received. And he still received it, I believe, to this day. Because Hank Aaron actually did a lot of things in Atlanta. A lot of people don't know. Well, some people in Atlanta, the people in Georgia area know this, but he was an astute businessman. You're talking about he had multiple franchises. Yes.
He owned 6 car dealerships, and he left the car dealership business, and he owned a number of
Krispy Kremes.
chicken
franchise
in metropolitan Atlanta, Georgia. In fact, my nephew is one of the major managers of Popeyes. He lived right here in New Orleans. And he's always going in and out of the city of New Orleans and going to open and doing a franchise across the South. And he's one of the highest ranking black, my nephew. Okay, but I'm saying to you, when it comes down to trying to give black credibility for doing positive things,
right?
The news media somehow they get, I wouldn't say they're paranoid, but somehow they don't have space in their news media to give positive. And you mentioned the name of a number of ball players. A lot of young folks today don't even know anything about them. Okay?
Right.
You ask the young kids, who is Murray Wills? Who's Billy McCovey? Willie Mays? That's totally foreign to them.
Yeah.
Because, they don't give that positive coverage.
What? Well, I think that
Marshall Falk played at Galmon High School.
Yes, he did.
Played all pro in the Hall of Fame. And you got kids playing high school right in football right now. You ask them, can you tell me about Marshall Falk? Who's that? It's showing that we have a serious lack of communication. So I'm so glad to see you with this cultural program.
Oh, thank you.
You're doing a very positive job.
Thank you.
Of educate the community. Okay? Very positive job. In fact, you've given more coverage to Hank Aaron than any of the news services today in the city of New Orleans. In fact, throughout the state of Louisiana.
Yeah.
A lot of people, there was nothing mentioned that Hank Aaron played baseball right here in New Orleans. Okay? A lot of people don't know that. Without your program, a lot of you listeners don't even know about Hank Aaron played ball right here and they were all stuff. They had it every year. The man who was I call the Godfather of North was Morris Jeff.
Oh yeah.
He played a major role in keeping us informed and keeping North a program as the top program in the nation. Not only in baseball, but in basketball, track. Jack Moore track meet they held at Shakespeare Playground. Okay?
Right.
You go to that particular track meet, Jack Moore track meet, that was put on by Noah. If you got there late, you couldn't find a seat. You had to stand up during the whole track meet. We had skateboarding derbies. Okay? It's the main thing is the fact that there is no coverage of the positive things that's happening in the African American community. Okay? So we got got to create our own media. And the biggest problem we find here in New Orleans and back throughout the state, we spend too much time depending on the white media to educate us about issues important to black people.
Mm-hmm.
See, nobody gonna save us but us for us. And we have to realize that, you know, and this is one of our downfall. Now, we have a black radio station. We have a black newspaper. But the reason they can't flourish like these whites, they can't get the advertisement dollar. If you go run a radio station, you go run a television station, it's mandatory that you get advertising so you can pay your staff.
Right.
They can't get that. And it's done intentionally.
Right.
Shut down any media to educate black folks.
Well,
But
that's
I'm so proud and glad they can't shut you down.
well. They can't. Well, they've tried to. You know, we're not a radio. This is not radio. This is internet. So it's a little bit more broader. However, on on channels like this, across YouTube as well as on Facebook and on different other accounts, say for instance on Periscope, they have started in recent times to try and censor a lot of people with certain things. So they have been trying. But you know, with radio in the last few years, radio has actually died down in large part, especially black radio. In large part, it had to do with the 1996 Telecommunications Act that was signed by Bill Clinton because it allowed corporations and conglomerates to buy out, smaller programs, smaller companies, almost essentially creating a monopoly. So when I look at, for instance, 98.5, which is the top R&B station here in Louisiana, well, that's now controlled by iHeartRadio, and iHeartRadio has control over hundreds of networks and radio programs. I think they also are involved with Q93, if I'm not mistaken. They have some of the top programs in radio now. So a lot of that is not black owned anymore, which is why sometimes they were not able to get and talk about the issues that we want because someone else is pulling the controlling the purse strings.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, it's right. So, you know, we had a form of communication during the civil rights movement. Okay? And we found out what was happening locally and nationally. For example, during the civil rights movement, if you want to find out what's going on in Black America, you go to church on Sunday. Then the preacher from the pulpit will educate you about what's happening in the civil rights movement. Because that's how they got the message to the people that had a concern about civil rights and human rights. Even your daddy went to St. Augustine High School.
Yep. St. Aug, only black boys Catholic high school in the country.
Involved in the civil rights book called Father O'Rourke. Do you remember him?
Father O'Rourke died before I even remember him. I even met him. So.
Your daddy knew him.
Yeah. Father O'Rourke.
And he was the one that motivated many of the students that went to St. Aug. It was important that they get involved in civil rights.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And another person which people have to talk about today is Father Hirschberg in Notre Dame.
Right, Father Hirschberg.
He was very good friends with Dr. Martin Luther King. I got a picture of Dr. King and Father Hirschberg, which I'm going to show to you and your daddy one day.
Okay,
and
cool.
The deal is that the white media refused to show that picture that Father Hirschberg, who was president of Notre Dame University, was very good friends with Dr. Martin Luther King. There was a lot of white nuns that supported the civil rights movement, especially the March on 7th to Montgomery.
Right.
But I got a picture of those nuns who doctored on the civil rights people who got beat up on the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Yeah.
They were the only one that would treat them at Good Samaritan Hospital, which was run by the nuns of Rochester. And they were there in 2013 at the 50th anniversary of the Selma to Montgomery March. And I walked up to a reporter. I said, you're only talking to black people. I said, they got white nuns here at the march. That was the only folk that was providing medical treatment to folks when they got beat up on Edmund Pettus Bridge. He said, well, my editor told me I only talk to black folks. I said, why did your editor tell you I only talk to black folks? And there were a number of white participators in this March on 7th of Montgomery. I said, there had 3 whites lost their lives on the 7th of Montgomery March. Reverend Reed over on Washington Avenue in Selma, he was killed by the Klans in a hate group. Viola Rizzo, she was killing, bringing folks back from Montgomery to Selma, and they took her plane, shot and killed her all the way back down Highway 80. And Reverend Jonathan Daniels, that was killed right there in Haynesville, right off Highway 80, organizing people to participate in the march. I said, why are you trying to turn the march from Selma to Montgomery to an all-black event? That's what the white media is good at. In other words, even the Black Lives Matter march, and they try to turn it into an all-black event when many whites participate, all nationalities. That's a way of trying to marginalize anything we attempt to do if it's multiracial. Or they feel if they give a multiracial perspective on something, it would give their effort credibility. But that's the game of the white media, especially in the Deep South.
Yeah, most definitely. And, now we have, thank goodness for internet and so forth, as well as getting in touch with other people. We're able to access and get our message and point across to everyone. And we got people in the chat room right now who are saluting us, talking to us. I see Derek. He says, salute, Gavin. Hello, how you doing? All right. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there, but looks like we had just a little issue here with the computer. So I guess it's their way of trying to block us from talking.
I hear you, brother.
Yeah, I want to ask you something.
And I definitely want to educate people about what's going on today as it relates for the suppression.
Sure. Before we get
1965.
Wait, Mr. Galmon.
The Voting Rights Act passed. The 1965 vote in 1965.
Yeah, Mr.
Okay?
Right.
All right, Attorney Richard, you had another topic you want to talk about?
Yeah, I was trying to say before you get into that, I did want to ask you a question of news that came out. I just want to know your thoughts. It was shown recently a deathbed confession about a man who was involved with the assassination of Malcolm X. His name was Ray Goodwood. Did you hear that story?
I never heard the name, but I do know that there was a serious conspiracy to get rid of Malcolm X and by a number of people, because he was doing a very good job educating black folks.
Yeah.
And there's old African proverb that say, one without knowledge of self, like a tree without roots. And so he was moving in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know Malcolm X was talking about black people in America, making the connection with Mother Africa.
Right.
Okay. And he would begin to educate them about the economic potential of black people making the connection with Mother Africa. That was one of the primary reasons he was assassinated.
Yes. A guy by the name of, I just want to point this out too. Mr. Galmon, a gentleman from Kenya. He was a journalist. His name was Pio de Pinto. Pinto was assassinated at least 3 days after Malcolm X was, around the same time. So according to Dick Gregory, he was the one that was trying to get Malcolm to connect with the different African nations. And supposedly he gets assassinated that same week Malcolm was assassinated. Malcolm was assassinated February 21st, 1965, and Pinto was assassinated February 24th. And I don't think to this day they have completely solved even that case. But it was basically, as Dick Gregory said, two for the price of one, that they got those guys in the same day because Malcolm was uh, threatening to go forward to the United Nations on the human rights charges against the United States. Not that the United States would follow it because the United States is bound by the Constitution, but nevertheless, to do from what we've all heard.
That's very heavy. Let me say this. Oh, when you take a look at the continent of Africa, I've been to Africa 9 times. In fact, I headed up the anti-apartheid movement in this region. I worked with John Conyers, Ron Dellum out of California, a number of folks, Richard Knight of the Africa Front, and a number of people. And I had a chance to meet Oliver Tambo in 1987. And he made me a member of the ANC, African National Congress. See, Africa is the richest continent in the world, made up of 54 countries. And they got all kind of precious minerals there.
Right.
Lithium, uranium, plutonium.
Coal.
You name it for today. The best kept secret that the United States of America get the majority of the crude oil from Africa, primarily West Africa. And many of the news media lies say it comes from the Persian Gulf. The Persian Gulf is not in Africa. Okay? So they don't want blacks knowing this. For example, you got in Louisiana, you got Waterford 3, that's in St. Charles Parish. You got Riverbend Station nuclear plant in West Louisiana Parish. The majority of the uranium that they get to give energy, to make energy from, comes from uranium. It's the isotopes in the uranium that produce the nuclear energy. Comes from South Africa.
Very little.
So
yeah.
They doing everything in the world to keep black people ignorant of the potentials in Africa. That's why Donald Trump referred to Africa as asshole countries. Because when Barack Obama was president, they had the largest African summit in the history of this country held in D.C. They had 48 nations there. Out of 54 was at this summit. Barack Obama committed $33 billion in foreign aid to Africa. They appointed a number of ambassadors down when he became president. He cut the foreign aid and brought the black ambassadors home from Africa. Because the deal is that they don't want black folks leaving America, going to Africa and getting educated, come back and educate people in America. The two most important positions appointed by Biden is appointing Major Austin as Secretary of Defense. And the young lady from Baker, Louisiana, named Linda Thomas Greenfield, as Ambassador to the United Nations. That's why the Republicans voted against her at a consummation because the deal is that she had too close ties to Africa. In fact, she was ambassador to Liberia. She spent a lot of time in Kenya. She's very familiar with the continent of Africa, which has 54 countries. And they feel that she would knowledge she obtained in Africa, she might come back and motivate a number of people here in Louisiana. We got a port city here that's not doing business in Africa by black folks. We're a port city. But today, the city of Atlanta, Georgia is doing major trade with Africa because they got a currency exchange in Atlanta, Georgia, where banks are willing to do a currency exchange with countries on the continent of Africa. Here in Louisiana, not a bank in Louisiana are willing to do a currency exchange here. I serve as a director of African Affairs under Mark Morrell. We tried to get 3 countries on the continent of Africa, very stable countries, to open a consulate. He opened a consulate here in New Orleans. I'm talking about South Africa when Mandela became president. That was in 2004. Ghana and Nigeria. The currency in South Africa is the rand. The currency in Ghana is the CD. And the currency in Nigeria is the naira. Very stable countries in Africa. Not a bank in Louisiana was willing to do a currency exchange. But in Atlanta, Georgia, they was willing to do a currency exchange. And they got major trade going in Atlanta with Africa. You got planes flying out of Atlanta every day going to great parts of Africa.
Well, Atlanta airport, Hartsfield-Jackson, is the 3rd busiest airport in the world, not just in the country, in the world. And that is because, in large part, because of Maynard Jackson. But Maynard Jackson, I have to say this in relation to what you were saying earlier, I feel that many of our leaders don't give tangibles, or are not trying to give tangibles to Black Americans in particular. I think that, while it's great that we have people that look like us in office, they also need to be accountable and to give certain things. And I feel, back then in the 70s, just from stuff that I was talking about, listening to like Maynard, how he developed Atlanta's airport, he actually presented to them, it's 80% for minority contractors, for Black contractors. And they're going to get 80% of this, and you take 20, and you can take it or leave it. And
but you know what about Maynard Jackson? He was unbossed, UNBOSS, and unbossed, UNBOUGHT, when he was in the office. He didn't run to white Republicans and get money to run as a Democrat. So I've been doing research here in Louisiana about Black elected officials. And the reason they can't speak up when it comes down to get business contracts and construction contracts, because many of them are running as Democrats and getting their campaign money from Republicans. And when it comes down to issuing a major contract, let me give you the perfect example. After Hurricane Katrina, all these parent school boards received $1,800,000,000 to build 25 new schools, to renovate schools, refurbish schools, came to 75 schools. Can you name me one Black contractor in all these parishes, the city limits, that received a major contract? And we got a majority of Black school board. That's the difference between Maynard Jackson and our school board. Okay? So that's why we cannot make progress. Because the people who we have sent into office, elected public office, they bought and paid for. We need to raise our own money. And when Maynard was smart enough to make sure Blacks got contracts to build an airport, that was his first big start.
How many Blacks, I just want to know if you know this, they just revitalized Louis Armstrong Airport. It's called Louis Armstrong Airport now, instead of New Orleans International. But were there any Blacks involved in that? Contract?
I cannot name you one Black that received a major prime contractor at the airport. I cannot name you one, from Holdings Parish.
Mm-hmm.
But they would grab a black from out of state, get him to front, and make him think he's a prime contractor, but he actually fronting for white folks. We need blacks who live here in New Orleans to be the prime contractor. I came out to February, your daddy came out to February too. Okay? We learned a lot about contracting because the February was the backbone of the construction industry.
Yeah.
The tile setters, the bricklayers, the carpenters, they came out that February. I grew up in the February. I grew up in the St. Bernard Project. The person I played baseball for at St. Raymond playground. His name was Lou Fred. He was a contractor. He laid bricks. Raymond Aguilar, who played ball at St. Aug, his daddy was a bricklayer. You had bricklayers and carpenters all over the February. But you know how they put them out of business? In order for you to get this contract, you have to have a bid bond. You have to have a payment bond. You have to have general liability.
Yes.
You have to have a general liability insurance. So in other words, the deal is that they put all this insurance out there. And so in order to get an insurance policy to do that, do this kind of work, you have to show that you have done a job $5 million, or $10 million or more. And so today, I know of no black that I know of in this state that ever done a $10 million construction job. So they're using bonding and work performance as a requirement for you to get a contract. So in other words, if you're a contractor, you be the best contractor in the world. If you can't get bonded, you're not going to get the contract. And these racist banks are not making loans to you, but business venture. So blacks in New Orleans are caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
What does Maynard do? Come with a one-stop shop in city government. They have blocks get finance from the Boston Corporation. He set up in City Hall an insurance program where you can get bonded in general liability insurance. And that's why blacks have been so successful in the state of Atlanta, Georgia, in the construction industry.
Mm-hmm.
Even the mortar system that runs from the airport throughout Atlanta all the way up to what I might call close to Alpharetta.
Yeah, the busing system, yeah, they're pretty good.
Right. So what I'm saying to you, they were able to get the financing through the First Boston Corporation. They loaned them like money. And they set up a one-stop shop inside the city government that if you needed insurance, you can get insurance. But this have never been done in New Orleans.
Yeah. What?
They're trying to have a one-stop shop today in New Orleans.
Yeah.
That one-stop shop is a joke. There's no one-stop shop in New Orleans.
Right. And
but Emma Donnell came here, who was Maynard's CEO. And she would have Rex Morrell set up one in City Hall. But that's received no support from the city council in putting this plan together. I met with her after she met with Rex Morrell in City Hall.
and who's that?
Emma Donnell.
Gina Darnell?
Maynard Jackson's CEO, Chief Administrative Officer.
Okay.
And she worked also, I worked with her with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Maynard had two CEOs. Tony Cook was involved in the civil rights movement, and Emma Donnell. But what you have here in New Orleans, like elected officials, once they get elected, they ain't scared to hire anybody with a civil rights background. But they feel it might upset their campaign contributors. They don't want nobody around. They got a civil rights background. They don't want to hire you. Because they feel you unbossed and unbossed. That if you see something wrong, you're going to speak out about it.
Yeah.
Okay? me give you a perfect example. Today, Louisiana is the most gerrymandered state in the Deep South. Repeat that for the slow learners. Today, Louisiana is the most segregated state in the Deep South. They're doing the census. Once they complete the census, they're going to draw district lines. Saying from the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus about this.
I can't say that I have.
Have you heard anything about the office from the Orleans Parish School Board?
No, sir.
Have you heard anything from the City Council?
No, nothing.
Well, let me just say this. I've been on the board of the National Voting Rights Museum that deals with 9 states. They've been conducting seminars and town hall meetings in the city of Atlanta, in the state of Georgia, from Atlanta down to Savannah. They've held about 8 town hall meeting seminars to educate folks about redistricting and gerrymandering. In the state of Alabama, they've had 5. They've moved from Mobile to Huntsville. Mobile sits on the Tennessee border, educating blacks how to protect their vote, how to use it as a means of making progress. Now, in 2019, the Louisiana Democratic Party in this state was headed up by a black female. National Democratic Party gave $350,000 to get blacks a seat at the Democratic table. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I can't say that I've heard anything about that.
The best way to keep people ignorant is keep them uninformed. So why is that? State of Alabama, state of Georgia, state of Mississippi, they can have workshops and forums to educate black folks. See, certain things that you have to know when you sit down there talking about drawing district lines and trying to protect the vote. See, and I've been dealing with this for 55 years, okay? And redistricting. People talking about what's deep redistricting? Redistricting refers to the process by which census data is used to redraw the lines and boundaries of an electoral district within a state. They got 4 racist tricks white people use in Louisiana to cut down on the number of elected seats. I want you all to listen very carefully. These 4 tricks, and I'll give you the name of them and explain them how they work. The first one is called packing. The second one is cracking. The third one is tracking. Tracking means if you got a chance to elect 2 black state representatives, if you made both districts 60-60 in population, what they would do, they would make one district 80% black. And so what happened, if they make it 80, they're packing them with black folks. In one district, when you got a chance to elect 2, if you make it 60-60. So that cut down on the number of black seats. Then cracking. Breaking up the black community. New Orleans East is a black community. Would you agree on that?
It is a predominantly black community neighborhood. Yeah.
Okay, now New Orleans East, we have like 70,000 people about New Orleans East. District East runs from the St. Tammany Parish line through New Orleans East to the lower Ninth Ward to the line of St. Bernard Parish.
Mm-hmm.
That is called an elongated district, the gerrymandering. So they crack it. So it divides New Orleans East up. So you have someone in District D representing parts of New Orleans East that runs past near Reed Boulevard. So why is somebody from District D is representing part of New Orleans East? That's cracking. We're not going to let you have a compact community we're going to divide New Orleans East up as much as possible. See, when you compact and organize, you got power. But if I break you up and divide you up, you got less power. Would you agree on that?
Yeah.
Now, there's another trick they're using on black folks called cracking. For example, cracking is the primary cause. Stacey Abrams lost the seat as governor of Georgia. Now, cracking is when they attract young black people. You finish high school. You go to college. When you're in college, you become a registered voter. And you're registered at your mother's address. When you get out of college and get a job, you move out your mother's and father's house. And get an apartment or buy your own house. They got a program set up by the Republican Party called Registration Cross-Check Program. They take it on young blacks and other minorities between the ages of 18 and 30 to see whether they still live at their mother's house or father's house. And if you got your own address in your own apartment or house, they're going to take you off the road and say, you don't live at the address where you registered at. But you registered legally, so we're going to take you off the road. That trick was used in Georgia when Stacey Abrams was running for governor. They took over 600,000 young folks off the road. Many of them were white. They took off because they assumed they were going to vote for Stacey Abrams. That's a trick called tracking. They've been tracking young folks for years. And they check and see if they live at the address they registered at. And if they're not living there, they take them off the road. The first time it really hit home to me, my daughter enrolled in University of Louisiana at Lafayette.
Yeah.
She leave out Monday morning or Sunday night and come back Friday evening. I received a letter in the mail said we have reason to believe that you don't live at this address. How in the hell they know she was working on her master's down in Lafayette? Who told them she was living down there? They track them, young folks. And black people, if you register at your parents' home and you got your own apartment, you need to get your address changed. Because that's what they're using today called tracking. And the program called Registration Cross-Check Program. And the Secretary of State is working with these Republicans and letting them know that we found about 2,000 people black that living at another address. So take them off the road. That's called tracking on black folks. And last but not least is the one called gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is the drawing of electoral districts to give one group or party an advantage over another. Let me put that for the soul on it. Gerrymandering, the drawing of election districts to give one group or party an unfair advantage over another. This is the most gerrymandered state in the South, Louisiana. And let me just give you a few numbers so you can be clear on this. And this is very serious that they can go down here and they can sit down here and draw district lines and cut down on the number of black potential seats. And this is a very racist type thing they're using in Louisiana. And the people who are elected to represent us, they haven't gotten hip to the game. And it's a very sick game. Let me just give you a clear picture. First of all, you got to know the population. Today, whites in Louisiana, they've got 56% of the population. Blacks make up 32%. Hispanics, 6%. Asians, 3%. Native Americans, 3%. That's 44%. And whites only 56%. And I was always wondering why we need the nation in incarceration. Let's take a look at the judge. In New Orleans, we call them criminal court judges. Outside of New Orleans, we call them district court judges. When you take a look as district judges and juvenile court judges, whites in this state make up 86%. Repeat that. Whites in this state make 86% of the district and juvenile court judges when you combine those two. Blacks make up 13%. How in the world can whites be 56% of the population and 86% of the judges that are able to send your niece or nephew to a juvenile detention center? When it comes down to sending your uncle or your brother to Angola, they make up 86%. So they got a program here in Louisiana called a program for juveniles. You can go through if you're a first offender.
Well,
and if you go to your councilman and remain clean for 6 weeks, they can spawn your record. Most blacks on that program exist.
what you're talking about is pretrial intervention.
Repeat that again?
You're talking about pretrial intervention in criminal cases.
Thank you. Now you're talking. How many blacks you think know about that?
I think not too many.
Thank you. You like that in law school. You went to Southern University in Baton Rouge, right?
I did. I learned it also in my practice as well.
Thank you. But how many blacks you think? That's what they send these young blacks to jail for. In other words, if I send you to jail, I can get a felony charge against you. I take away your right to vote. So they're using the justice system, criminal justice system, to get a record on blacks as a felony. So once you get out, you cannot vote. The law said if you've been on probation 5 years or 6 years, once you get out, you can register.
Well, it's not even just the right to vote as well. You also lose your gun rights. You can lose your, of course, it's hard to find a job. There are a number of things that come from that once you get a felony record. But yeah.
Now, that's why your program's so important. You're educating people. Let me just give you a breakdown of some of the most important elected positions in Louisiana that whites don't understand that we are not being represented. We got U.S. congressmen. We got 6 seats. 1 black, Chevy Richmond seat. Again, whites make up 56% of the population. How can you be 56% of the population? They got 6 seats and you occupy 5 votes. State Supreme Court judges, 7 seats. Judge Burnett Johnson is retiring.
Yes.
You got 7 state Supreme Court judges. You got 7 seats and 1 black. Something wrong with that picture.
Mm-hmm.
State senator seats, 9 seats. I think today we might have 10 black. State representative, 105 seats. You might have 25 blacks. Now, one of the most important boards in this state is the Bessie Board. I think y'all know that. You got 11 seats, only 2 blacks. But it's serious, man. When whites only make up 56% of the population. Okay? We took over in Selma. Okay? For the National Voting Rights Museum. That's where the Austin Silverton Montgomery took office in Selma, Alabama. There are 9 states. Every year, Louisiana ran number 1 when it come down to violating the Voting Rights Act of African Americans in this state. And the Times Picayune and the full television station, they would never educate you about this. The best way to control people is keep them uninformed. Every year. This is one of the most racist states in America. We analyzed Barack Obama's campaign in those 9 states. Barack Obama ran in 2008. In Louisiana, he received less than 6% of the vote. As a sitting president, he ran in 2012. He received less than 6% of the white vote. Out of the 9 states with complete coverage, he received less votes in 2008 and 2012 in Louisiana. Let me give you those 9 states. That's with complete coverage under the Voting Rights Act. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, Texas, and Virginia. Think about it. 9 states in each year. Louisiana people voting rights in Louisiana. How many times you read about this in the Advocate, the Time Picayune Advocate newspaper?
It's not talked about.
How many times you have seen this on television? They're not going to tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
If I can keep you ignorant, I can control you. But you can't depend on them to educate black folks about what affects them. So a program like your program, I listen to your program. I watch you on TV. You do a hell of a job of educating the public about what the hell is going on. So how many attorneys in this?
I can't speak for them.
Thank you.
But I know a lot of attorneys. Thank you. But I know a lot of attorneys too. Just to clarify, in their practice, I know of some who do great things in helping a lot of people get off and recover their not only their voting rights but also their gun rights, their rights to get back to normal. They do expungements, things of that nature. But I just started just coming on the channel as because I was tired of getting rejections. For instance, they won't put positive black images, straight, and I'm talking about straight heterosexual African American males on TV anymore. It doesn't exist. And so I just decided I was going to go on, and I just started using my channel that I had, and I've just been doing it. So
I've been watching you ever since you graduated from law school to something. You've been involved in issues that impact black folks. What motivated you to do that?
What motivated me to do what, Mr. Galmon?
To get involved in dealing with civil rights and human rights issues.
Well, I mean, I've always been involved with it even as a kid, as a teenager. I started getting involved in that, as a little kid. We used to have Black History programs and just seeing things that were going on at that time. I was a kid. I remember when the O.J. Simpson case took off, and I saw Johnny Cochran. That's what made me want to be an attorney. And then, one of the inspirations. And then just I didn't like unfairness. I like to argue with people. I like to go back and forth. And so I would just see stuff like that. And then I guess my third eye got open when I saw the 2000 election with Bush versus Gore. And we saw that Al Gore actually won that race, but they gave that to George W. So I had been I always had an interest in doing it as a kid. And so that's what motivated me. And this was what keeps me going so far.
Dr. King made the statement, there's nothing that motivates you to get involved in. He hit the statement. What motivated me to get involved in civil rights was I grew up in the St. Bernard Project. That's not too far from City Park.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, we couldn't even use City Park, although my parents paid taxes.
Right.
And I remember when I used to go on Canal Street with my mother sometime when I was very young. And she used to tell me, use the bathroom. If you want some water, drink some water. And I'm not going to let you use the toilet. But when I got older, and I went in the store one day, and I went by myself, I was going to Andrew there. And I looked over, and I saw 2 water fountains. One, for blacks, they had tap water. Right next to that, they had cold water. And I saw a white guy in there one day go and get take some water in his mouth, rinse his mouth out, and spit right there. And I said to him, I'd be damned. And I thought about what my mother said. You're not going to drink no water on Canal Street. And all those stores on Canal Street, they had those fountains. Tap water for black folks, cold ice water for white folks. You got on the St. Bernard Parish bus. You paid the same fare. They had a sign said, colored patrons only. We had to sit behind that sign. Many times white used to take those signs and move them back. That forced many blacks to stand up while they riding the bus. And I thought about those things. And I began to get older, read about A.P. Turo, who lived on Parker Street.
Yeah, his birthday just passed on Friday.
What's that?
His birthday just passed. His anniversary of his birth was this Friday, February 26th.
You know, a lot of people in this city don't know about A.P. Turo.
Yeah.
And that was my mother, A.P. Turo.
Right.
What I'm saying is that it's not a major street in this city named after A.P. Turo. I remember in the early 50s, he filed a lawsuit to get equal pay for black people. In some cases, white people paying white teachers 25% more than black teachers.
Yeah.
I remember he integrated the school. They talk about the young lady going down to William Friend School, Ruby Bridges.
Ruby Bridges, yeah.
The man who handled that lawsuit was A.P. Turo.
Yeah. You know,
I remember I played ball in Nord. The man who integrated Nord was A.P. Turo.
Right. The street where St. August is named after him. A lot of people, I don't think a lot of people, unless they're close here in New Orleans, especially those that live around St. Aug and so forth, know about that. I mean, the school that they have for him, our school, St. Aug, they renamed him. So I always knew of A.P. Turo myself. And matter of fact, when I was in law school, I met his son, A.P. Turo Jr.
You're right.
Yeah, who actually was the first black to integrate LSU. Because Dutch Morial integrated LSU Law School and was the first to graduate there. But but I know that he was actually, yeah. So his son told us all stories about him, and I mean the information is online. People can actually go on Wikipedia and just look up A.P. Turo and the things that he did. Being close associated with Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP, working on those cases. Things of that nature, filing suit against LSU on behalf of his son. That's how his son became the first black student at LSU. Working also with, again, with the NAACP, I believe he was part of that Now versus Board of Education.
Right. Well, let me tell you something. I see what he talk about naming different streets after African American heroes and sheroes.
Uh-huh.
I feel if the people who they appointed to select names, they would name South Broad Street after A.P. Turo. If they serious, okay? They would name South Broad after A.P. Turo. Okay? That's what they would do. Because he made a major contribution for his life on the line. Okay? Yeah. I remember I grew up in that airport. I know some couple of guys were scared to talk with his daughters because they were scared of the white folks. Okay? What I'm saying to you, the deal is that the people who they selected to want to rename certain streets and certain schools. I looked at a number of names. They have about as much involvement in civil rights as human rights as David Duke. When white folks know how to want to run a game on black folks, they know how to select the right black. Now, I worked renaming schools in Alding Parish.
Yes, we talked about that.
We were able to rename 26 schools. On the black board member, they have taken the names off of 16 schools. They no longer exist. We had a school named after Dr. Ronald McNabb. That name was on the school prior to him changing the name. it was named after Robert E. Lee on Carrollton Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ronald McNair was considered a genius in physics, laser physics. He got a PhD in laser physics, the first black in America, and he died in Challenger.
Right, that was in 86.
Robert E. Lee was changed to Ronald McNair.
Right.
In other schools, one school named after Israel Augustine. S.J. Peterson, that name was changed to Israel Augustine, right on Tulane and Broad. It took Israel Augustine name off that school. Thurgood Marshall, that school was named after prior to that was Beauregard, the man who fired the shot to start the Civil War.
Right, P.T. Beauregard.
The name is no longer on the school.
Yeah.
The majority of black school boards sit there and a black superintendent. And they allowed the white folks to convince them to take those names off the school. Out of 26 schools we renamed, they've gotten rid of 16 names. With the majority black school board and the black superintendent. What are they representing?
Yeah. And, there's, no schools named after Oscar Dunn or after PBS Pinchback. Hell, if we're talking military leaders, we could look at also Martin Delaney, who was the highest ranking Negro Civil War soldier in the Union Army. He was a doctor.
Thank you.
A former slave. He was also the father of black nationalism. This is Oscar Dunn. You can't see the screen, Mr. Galmon, but that's Oscar Dunn. I'm showing everybody. He was a Republican lieutenant governor of Louisiana during the era of construction. He succeeded PBS Pinchback in that role, as Pinchback was the first black governor and the only black governor in this state during Reconstruction, although he served only for a brief period. Like 34 days, if I'm not mistaken. So there are certainly a number of people that they could redeem the schools after if they chose to, and even the streets of heroes, especially if they're talking about serving the military and so forth. But case
in point. Case in point. Back that was in 1994. I got involved in the issue of renaming schools. Yeah. I was at Endymion Parade, and it got there kind of late, and I was behind a number of white folks.
Yeah.
And that got 35 was Endymion Parade, and the band proceeded past. And the white folks, people I could tell by actually they weren't from Louisiana. And they told them that band named after John McDonough.
Yeah.
And some of the white folks said, yes, they thought it was the funniest thing they ever seen in their life. An all-black band marching up down in St. Charles Avenue, named after the largest slave owner in the history of North America. John McDonough owned 1,800 slaves. Yeah. And yet, he is a black band named after John McDonough. And white folks are laughing at the black students wearing a band uniform with John McDonough's name on it.
Yeah, that's serious. Well, right, but didn't he give upon his death like a large amount of money? I'm reading this here in his will to educate poor whites and free people of color, and that's why they gave him. That's why those schools are named after him.
Well, let me get that lie straight, but they've been putting out there for years.
Okay.
John McDonough died in 1838.
Says 1850.
Now, 1838 when he died. There was no public schools in Louisiana in 1838. Now, I've been to Monrovia, Liberia. I had babies by concubine wives.
Mm-hmm.
He first rolled American Colonization Society. When he went around, picked up young mixed blood kids who was mulattoes, octoroons, and quadroons, put them on a boat and shipped them to West Africa. They didn't send them back to Africa because they weren't born in Africa. And they helped organize a colony called Liberia. And they were shipped to Liberia and they helped organize the colony. If you go to the library in Monrovia, Liberia, they got information regarding John McDonough. and he sent money sometime to them. Are you aware today, in 2021, the currency in Liberia is the American dollar? It was initiated because John McDonough gave money to his offspring to help organize a colony called Liberia. That's it. The library. There's nothing in that library by John McDonough giving $2 million to build schools in Louisiana. Now, my cousin and I filed a lawsuit against Bank One. Bank One purchased two banks. That was the biggest lenders in this city. They loaned white folks money to buy slaves, and they accept slaves as collateral at these two banks. There was Canal Bank and Citizen Bank. We looked at all of the banks that was in Louisiana at that time. We could not find anything about John McDonough giving $2 million to Louisiana to open public schools. And the money wasn't in the bank. I'm quite sure he didn't put it in the mayonnaise jar or shoebox. What bank did he have that $2 million in? And when John McDonough left, he left money to build schools. That's the biggest lie we've been told to people. And I challenge anybody in all these private school boards, give me a name of a bank that John McDonough is supposed to put this $2 million in. It was people from the Sin Ward that led the fight to stop black folks from going down so-called McDonough Day, putting a wreath on his statue after all the white kids went before them put on there. It was people like Reapers Artique, Arthur Chapatal, A.P. Turo, and many Mud Trudeau, many blacks in that same war led the fight to stopping blacks from putting on those blue pants and white shirts, going down there and in that hot sun and putting a wreath on John McDonough's statue. John McDonough left money to build schools. John McDonough money had never been used to build a school for black folks from the ground up. That's the biggest lie we've been told to black folks in Louisiana. And I challenge, I'll debate anybody on that subject. Whether he left money to build schools for black folks. The few schools that black folks use, like McDonough 35, McDonough, they was hand-me-down schools that came from white people when they got tired of using those schools. They were run down. They turned them over to black folks. So we have received a serious miseducation here in Louisiana about the education system. And I want somebody to show me a document where John McDonough left $2 million to build new schools in Louisiana. Okay? He became famous because the American Colonization Society, he bankrolled that. Got all these light-skinned kids out of New Orleans because they wanted the same rights as the white Anglo-Saxon kids that lived above Canal Street. That's why we had the neutral ground to separate the so-called white folks from the so-called people of color and black folks living east of Canal Street. So we've been fed a bunch of lies about this education system in all these parts. Mm-hmm. Go and look up the American Colonization Society and see who bankrolled that deal. John McDonough bankrolled that. He was the leader in getting these mixed-blooded kids out of New Orleans because they said they were troublemakers. And that documentation, you ever go to Liberia, West Africa, go to the library in Monrovia, Liberia, you will find that scholarship in the library there in Monrovia, Liberia. Okay. And I'll debate anybody in all the entire school system. I'll debate any PhD or no D about whether or not John McDonough left $2 million to build schools in all these areas.
All right. Mr. Galmon, I've had you on for an hour and 30 minutes. I'd said an hour.
It's always good talking to you because I know your dad did a hell of a job educating you.
Thank you.
You know, so you keep on doing what you're doing, brother. So I hope one day that you will run for public office because ain't too many sincere brothers in this city. But many of them are talking now saying nothing. You sticking to the power, so have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Galmon, and I welcome you to come back on anytime.
All right, brother. You take care and keep on practicing law.
Will do, sir. We'll be in touch.
Keep fighting for the people. I'll be proud of you, brother.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Um,
Thank you. God bless. All right, guys, that was Carl Galmon. I just want to say something. I was correcting him earlier from what I read on the Wikipedia webpage. It said McDonough died in 1850, not 1838. You guys saw me say that. But uh, Mr. Galvin is a walking, uh, essentially, especially about Louisiana and New Orleans politics. I wanted to have him come on because of this, essentially. And I don't, of course, now I'm gonna be real with you, especially for a lot of my followers. You follow me. He is part of that. He is part of those baby boomer crowd, from the 1940s. He's very steadfast on voting and the importance of voting, and helping get Barack Obama in office, things of that nature. I don't know where I'm going with it, but he has a wealth of information, and I don't doubt his love and his support for Black people in this country, and especially in this area. He's been involved in that fight for a long time, in doing some things. So I wanted him to come on because he has a wealth of information to share with you all. A lot of you appreciate it. I see Rosalind. What's up, Rosalind from Philadelphia? To Galman. We also have someone else here, Vulcan 205. What's up, Vulcan? It says exactly. So I don't know how the hell Biden won Georgia, November. If I had gotten him, that's another thing, guys. If I had gotten to the point where we were going to be talking about the election 2020, I know he was going to be pro Biden and so forth. I tried to stay away from all of it, per se. I wanted to focus on some stuff that you guys hadn't heard, because we were talking about gerrymandering and also voter suppression, things of that nature, things that affect Louisiana politics down here, but also the impact on the entire country. There's some things that you may have learned from hearing Mr. Galvin you didn't on on mainstream media. And we have to be the new Black media, as he says. That was something very powerful. It says baby boomers, 1946 to 1964. Well, he was born in 1940, so 6 years removed from that. He was still a baby at that time. He was born during World War II, during before World War II started for the United States, but he was still a child when all of that stuff was going on, and he was around whatever John Lewis would be. He was a little bit of he and John Lewis are the same age. John Lewis was born in 1940, as was Mr. Galvin, and uh, he certainly has a wealth of information. As I said again, he's somebody that I think you guys were going to be interested in hearing from, and I wanted to have him come on because we had been talking about it. So when you share things, especially when we talk about the Negro League, a lot of people forget that you actually had, and I didn't mention this to him, but the Negro Leagues, of course, were even owned by some wealthy Black men, who is the king of jazz, and especially here in the New Orleans area. He actually had ownership uh, in many the New Orleans Negro Leagues. In fact, the name of the baseball team, trying to get the name of it here, escapes me. I even read about this earlier. The team was the Armstrong Secret Nine. That's it, the Secret Nine. Okay. Yeah, this is it here. Let me stop the video just so you guys can see a little bit of some Black history, since it is the last day in Black History Month. But we celebrate Black history all year long. We don't just need the month to tell us when to celebrate our heroes. Armstrong Secret Nine, also known as the Raggedy Nine, was sponsored by American jazz musician Louis Armstrong in 1931 in his hometown of New Orleans, Louisiana. Both softball and baseball teams during the Jazz age. The popularity of baseball made for an attractive medium used by American entertainers and public figures for self promotion. And so big bands led by Louis Armstrong and Count Basie, Harry James, Tommy Dorsey, and Benny Goodman uh, were used for softball and baseball teams. So they used the Raggedy Nine. You see Louis Armstrong right there. So that was in 1931. That was in 1931. So just imagine uh, all of that stuff that was going on, during his time, stuff he saw. Okay, so he would be silent generation. Okay, so the silent generation, you said he's not a baby boomer, but silent generation, uh, that was the generation was comparatively small. That was the era between the Great Depression, which was in the 1930s, and World War II, so in the early to mid 1940s. And fewer people were having children back then. So they call it the silent generation. And of course, Mr. Galmon is an exception because he is nowhere silent, nowhere near silent. He's going to be talking. So it was a privilege to have him come on. I Before we get out of here, I just want to give you guys some updates. I want you to tune in on tomorrow, on Tuesday, actually. Tuesday, we're going to have, it was a pleasure to have him come on. Tuesday, I'm going to have Albert Lanier come on this channel because we are going to be talking about uh, regards to the death of Sam Cooke. I've had some people, I believe it may have been Rosalind or whoever, a few people in the chat that have come on. All right, Squeaky G, I haven't seen you in ages, man. I take it you've been working. But yes, he is. He's a host of has a host of information. 1925. Yeah, the Armstrong Nine. Yeah, Bishop is looking up this stuff. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, he has a wealth of information. And tune in this Tuesday. Uh, I don't know who he meant who had the. Well, they were sponsored in 1931, so Armstrong 9 couldn't have been 1925. Who are you talking about with the champs? Bishop Scott. But this Tuesday, Albert Lanier, he is a freelance journalist. He will be joining my channel on Tuesday at 8 o'clock my time, 8 o'clock Central. We are going to be talking about the death of Sam Cooke. I met him through Valerie Denise Jones. Shout out to her and the Judge Joe Brown show. You guys need to check that out every Friday at 3 p.m. Central, 4 o'clock Eastern time. Bishop is a guest on the show, as well as Brother Bernard, who you all saw me do a show with yesterday on live stream. Shout out to him. You guys should come and check that out. We're going to be talking about Sam Cooke. I wanted to redo this because I had people asking about it. And of course, Sam Cooke's death. People still wonder about his death and the circumstances surrounding it, given the two documentaries that have come out in recent years, including Two Killings of Sam Cooke on Netflix and Lady You Shot Me, which is a documentary that is on Apple as well as I believe Amazon, if I'm not mistaken. But I know for a fact now it's also on YouTube that it's been made available. So it's an hour and 8 minute documentary. You guys may want to check it out while you're free to get refurbished on some things because we're going to go deep into the death of Sam Cooke on Tuesday at 8. You guys do not want to miss that. This has been a great, productive program. I appreciate you all for joining me. I need you to please get the likes, shares, and subscribes up. If you could please donate to the Cash App, Gavin Richard Esquire, Google Pay, Gavin.grich1 at gmail.com or to the PayPal. I would greatly appreciate it. Guys, enjoy the rest of this beautiful Sunday. It is for a walk. You said Hilldale. Bishop Scott says Hilldale uh, in 1920. He's talking about 1925. You know, Moses Fleetwood Walker, guys, and here's another uh, unknown Black history. He was actually considered to be the first Black person, the first person, actual Negro in the major leagues. Here's a picture of him right here, Moses Fleetwood Walker. I'm gonna get off before I get off. I want you guys to see this because this is still Black History Month. Oh, yes, it has not changed. That is Moses Fleetwood Walker, and according to Wikipedia, was an American professional baseball catcher who is credited with being one of the first Black men to play in the MLB. A native of Mount Pleasant, Ohio, and a star athlete at Oberlin College, as well as the University of Michigan, Walker played for semi-professional and minor league baseball clubs before joining the Toledo Blue Stockings of the American Association and for the 1884 season. I'm just skipping through this. Through research by the Society for American Baseball Research indicates William Edward White was the first African American baseball player in the major leagues. Walker, unlike White, was the first to be open about his Black heritage and to face the racial bigotry so prevalent in the late 19th century United States. His brother Weldy became the second Black athlete to do likewise in the same year, also for the Toledo Ball Club. Walker just played one season, 42 games total for Toledo before injuries entailed his release. It says here after his baseball career, he became a successful businessman, inventor, and as an advocate of Black nationalism. Walker also jointly edited a newspaper called The Equator with his brother. He published the book Our Home Colony to explore the ideas immigrating back to Africa. He died in 1924 at the age of 67. And here is his brother Weldy. He was the second African American to play MLB sports, MLB, and was an editor of that paper with his brother. That's him there. And they promoted the idea of going back to Africa. Uh, They were active in the Back to Africa movement. Of course, that was spearheaded by one Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And hey, talking about Liberia, excuse me, Liberia. I'm sorry, guys. Liberia, as Mr. Galmon mentioned, this is it here. Of course, you notice the same red, white, and blue flag. It's the national anthem. And English is the official language. Michael Jackson's hit, one of my favorite songs on the Bad album, is called Liberian Girl. So I love listening to that. You guys, we're going to go get out of here. I'm going to put the link up where you could actually see this. You guys can check out Mr. Moses Fleetwood Walker. He will be my topic for Black History because this brother was an inventor and obviously did some great things in his later life. It says here that he patented four inventions, uh, including an outer casing in 1891 with regards to firing artillery shells with gunpowder rather than compressed air. So he patented an outer casing. And There's a lot of information on him. I'm gonna put the link up. You guys can read about that. Thank you, Bishop. Thank you, Vulcan. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the show. You said Trump is about to speak at CPAC today. You gotta check that out, Bishop. I'm sure you will. I might take a look at it. I actually want to do another video. I'm gonna work on my podcast because I gotta address some things in regards to Obama and the reparations argument. So you guys can check that out on my podcast on Anchor. I'll probably leave a link and do a video for it as well, so you guys can listen to it. But you guys be safe and be blessed. I will see you all in the next one. Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, Al Lanier. Don't forget the murder of Sam Cooke. All right, guys. Peace and love. I'll holla.